Juan Williams went on Wall Street Journal Live to discuss poverty in minority communities, and he's going to blame poor people for their own poverty.
What has gone so wrong? Why are these numbers stuck there or even deteriorating?
Well, I think we're stuck. I think the American society is stuck, but I think in particular the people who should be in the forefront of engineering change in terms of social policy to address the nature of new kinds of drivers of poverty, particularly single-parent families, breakdown in terms of family structure. There's a reluctance for people to address this issue, particularly people who are invested, it seems to me, in the better outcomes. And
you mean civil rights organizations?
Say, yes.
Okay. So Paul Ryan is meeting with the Congressional Black Caucus. What are they going to discuss, and are they willing to listen to his ideas?
Well, Paul Ryan, and I might add Senator Rubio, Senator Paul, have all been out looking at new ways to bring ideas to the forefront with regard to solving poverty issues. Paul Ryan's emphasis has been on taxes and looking at new ways to use the tax dollar rather than investing further into poverty programs that have not moved the dial.
Why is there such a reluctance on behalf of organizations like, say, the NAACP?
Oh, boy.
You say, oh, boy. Why do you say, oh, boy? Why aren't they willing to look critically at these issues and have an honest conversation about what's going wrong?
I think they're locked into the whole idea of increased spending and petitioning the government as if simply adding dollars was going to solve the problem. And
that's what the president says.
No, I don't know what I don't know that, but I mean, more dollars are not going to solve the poverty problem in this country because we've been putting money into it. It's not the case that you would say, oh, those dollars have no impact. I wouldn't make that case. I'd say, no, there are some people who are helped.
Could have a negative impact.
It could too.
Could keep people on the dole.
Well, we know that for a fact if you look at some of the dynamics in terms of what's required of people in order to be eligible, and is there a differential? If some people say it's not to my advantage to take a job because I'm not going to earn that much more money and I won't be home to watch the soap operas or something. But what we definitely need are new ideas that would give people some reason to go to work. And Paul Ryan got in trouble when he said there's an inner city culture that in some cases facilitates the idea that you don't need to work.
That's exactly what the president said. Where is the president on this? Why is he not coming up with new, innovative ideas? My brother's keeper, I'm sorry, Juan, that's a joke.
Well, I don't know that it's a joke, but I think that you should, as a role model, as a black male role model, no, I think he has an opportunity there to say that education's valuable, taking care of your family is valuable, and to make it clear through corporate philanthropy, by the way, that investing in these young men is better than seeing them go off to jail. So I do think it has some value there. But I think that your larger point is right on target, Mary, which is the president has said that there is a cultural issue here.
In the United States of America, you can work a full-time job and not make enough money to survive. I repeat, working full-time, not making enough money to survive. So in other words, you can be a productive member of society. You can have a full schedule, plus taking care of your kids and doing this and doing that, and you still need to use food stamps. You still need to use Medicaid. You still need to use the government safety net. But meanwhile, Juan Williams and this other idiot are going to point at you and say, tisk, tisk, why can't you get your shit together? What's the problem? You must have some cultural issues. You must have something wrong. You must have some sort of inherent defect in how you function. Because look, you're only making $23,000 a year. You better get your shit together. Meanwhile, what do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? They're working, but the amount of work that they're putting in is not being paid appropriately. It's not being valued by society. Like we discussed in the previous segment, if the minimum wage kept pace with productivity, so in other words, if you actually got paid the amount that you put in and how much you produce, it would be $21.72 today. So what we're doing with the minimum wage is we're holding it artificially low. And then these idiots come along and they point at you and blame you for it, like you're doing something wrong. Over 10 million Americans, working poor people. And then also, like when the Great Recession hit in 2008, right? And then we went into, terrible situation and all those jobs vanished over, just a few months. Who are you blaming? So you're blaming the people who got fired. You're not blaming the system and the way it was rigged in favor of the rich and how it was over-leveraged and how a lot of it was monopoly money and how there were actual structural problems, and you're not blaming the CEOs and the corporations and Wall Street who made the bad decisions that led to all these people losing their houses and then people having to be laid off and everything. No, you're blaming the people who got fired like it's their fault. What, do they wake up the next day and say, you know, I feel lazy today. I'm just going to quit my job and do absolutely nothing? No, they didn't do that, but that's how you're framing it. You're saying, oh, it's cultural, which means that's code speak for, oh, they're lazy. It's not a culture that embraces work. Really? Let me ask you a question. What's the unemployment rate right now? 6.5%, roughly thereabouts. So, if I'm not mistaken, that means over 90% of the American people are working. Okay? And what percentage of the people who aren't working are looking for work? 90% of that remaining percentage? So, what are we dealing with here? At most, in any given society, maybe 1%, 3% at most, and I'm being too generous to the right wing, that actually check out of life and say, fuck it, I'm done, I don't want to work, I'm just going to do whatever. It doesn't exist. It's mythical. But this is a way for them to point the finger at you and say, it's your fault. I mean, their arguments are all so bad. They're like, why does poverty still exist? I don't understand. Well, maybe because of the fucking tax cuts for the rich and the deregulation and the fact that you got rid of unions and the fact that you got rid of labor laws and the minimum wage isn't increasing. Maybe that's why poverty still exists, because of your right-wing policies, which ironically you're now pushing for even more right-wing policies to be the cure. No, that was the problem in the first place. And then they say, well, we need to address the real things like, you know, single parents, the real problems. Right, single parents are the problem, which is why, who is the president of the United States right now? Oh, that's right, a guy who was raised in a single-parent household. No, the issue is material well-being. If there's enough material well-being, then people can thrive. It's got nothing to do with, oh, you need to have one mother, one father, a white picket fence, a dog. It's all bullshit. There's no actual science behind that being superior. And then they're like, why? I don't understand. Why won't the NAACP listen to Paul Ryan's ideas? Well, I don't know. Maybe because he has none. His ideas are all the same right-wing garbage we've heard forever. Oh, cut taxes on the rich, deregulate, and fuck unions, and don't raise the minimum wage. Oh, what a brilliant... Please tell me more, Paul Ryan. I'm very interested in the exact same shit that you're going to say now that people were saying 25 years ago. This is the same shit that came out of Ronald Reagan's mouth that didn't work. Same shit that came out of George W. Bush's mouth that didn't work. And now you're telling me it again and acting like it's new. They try to pretend like their legacy doesn't exist, like we never tried their ideas, like we're living in a fucking vacuum. No, we had George W. Bush. It was a disastrous presidency. You guys even pretend to love, oh, we're in favor of the private sector and capitalism. We like to increase the private sector. Really? Then your fucking boyfriend, George Bush, he lost 646,000 jobs in the private sector. So we tried your ideas and they failed, even by your own standards. I'm getting worked up, and I don't even need to right now. And then the final thing I'll say, man, one of the bigger things that pisses me off is how they pretend like, well, the war on poverty doesn't work and the safety nets don't work. Bullshit. The United States of America, out of all of the modern industrial nations, we have the most meager safety net. And shock, shock, we have a higher poverty rate.